Thank you for listening to the Kyle and Tim podcast, where we have authentic conversations that help cultivate a better understanding of ourselves, our guests, and the world we live in. This podcast is about our guests, getting to know them, their backgrounds, experiences, thoughts, and ideas. We really appreciate you listening. Before we introduce our next guest, we'd like to introduce a few of our sponsors that help make this podcast possible.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Mountain Mule Transportation, located here in Bozeman, Montana. Mountain Mule is a private SUV and truck service, offering chauffeur services in all of southwest Montana. Whether it's your next skiing, hunting, or fishing trip, early morning or late night trips to and from Bozeman Airport, as well as weddings and private parties. No matter the occasion, Mountain Mule will get you there safely and on time. To learn more, visit mountain-mule.com and book today. Where'd you grow up?
So I was born down south of the border in Wyoming.
Okay.
In Wheatland, and I was kind of one of those rugrat ranch kids that ran around and got leeches on themselves. And,
Smells like diesel fuel all the time.
Well,
I didn't even pick it up.
That's just because of the van I was driving. I don't know why diesel pumps are so sloppy, but anyways, I can't seem to put diesel in the van without getting it on my hands.
Every time I get within 5 feet of motor oil, it just has to end up on me somehow.
Yeah, it's just, I'm an attractant. But
yeah.
Anyways, my dad was one of those very multi-talented people who just did everything. So we moved around a whole bunch. He's a veteran. He was a cowboy. He was an iron worker in Southern California during the big building boom of the 80s. So we ended up there, but we had like this suburban half acre or it was a quarter acre. Seemed big when I was a kid. We had goats, horses, all the things. So I've kind of always been an animal person. And by the time I was 7, my mom was kind of resigned to the fact that she was raising a biologist, whether she wanted to or not. Like it was just very like, okay, this is what you are. So always been fascinated with the natural world. And my grandparents moved to Vashon Island in Washington, right across from Seattle when I was...
Yeah, I've heard of it because I lived out that way for a little while.
Okay, yep. Awesome. It's such a beautiful place.
You take a ferry to get there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they lived 3 houses down from the ferry, so very conveniently located. So they introduced me both to like the city of Seattle, which back in the 90s was pretty safe and pretty like preteen friendly.
Yep.
And they lived right on the shore, so when the tide would go out, I would just be in the rocks, in the tide pools, like discovering all the things. And we all knew I was going to be a biologist. I thought I would be like a cardiovascular surgeon or something, but I ended up becoming an ecologist. So, and the tide pools were really what inspired me because you can see a lot of interactions and variables in this small space. So I did a bachelor's in aquatic ecology and a master's in biology. My master's was actually focused on intertidal ecology, and that was at Humboldt State.
Okay.
So spent a lot of time in California.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice place to live.
Yeah, sure. No,
it was a good place to go get an education, you know. Nice weather. I eventually got really tired of the nice weather, though, and so I had a number of different jobs. I worked at Redwood National Park. That's where I did my master's degree while I was studying at Humboldt State. And Humboldt is not like California. It's much more wild.
Uh-huh.
It's like... I don't know how to describe it. It's just a very wild place, quite rural, really low population density, a lot of wildlife, a lot of kind of biology, wildlife, fisheries, forestry type students. And so there was a lot of that community. Met some just awesome people there.
Yeah.
And I worked for the park for a number of years, but I was a seasonal 1039, which means they work you 1 hour shy of 6 months. So you never have any benefits. And I had some student debt from a master's degree. So I went to work for the Fish and Wildlife Service, experienced the financial crisis of 2008. Didn't want to keep working for the Fish and Wildlife Service. I was in San Diego County, which is unsuitable habitat for me as a person. The weather is too nice. There were not enough opportunities to wear sweaters. So I did the only logical thing a person could do in a financial crisis, and I quit my job and moved to Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
I had always been fascinated by the place because it's very rich in biodiversity. And so I went and worked on a project there for however long my visa would allow me, which I think was 3 months. I ended up in Australia afterward for 6 years, working, enjoying life, working in consulting in various aspects. And then they had a financial crisis.
I'll go figure.
I was like, oh, okay, what do I do now? And I really didn't have any plans, but I had a friend that was, her and her family were doing a trip to Yellowstone. And it was kind of like, wow, Yellowstone. I haven't been there since I was a little kid, you know, when my parents lived in Wyoming and we'd come back to visit. But it had been years and years and years. I'd been out of this area for so long. And so the irony was that my Australian friend and her parents were what brought me back to the area. And I think it was 2011.
Okay.
We did a winter trip, snowshoeing and cross-country skiing and wildlife watching. I saw wolves for the first time with Rick McIntyre, and I was like, well, this is rad. And then I went back to Western Australia and continued with my life and was like, that was a great vacation. But when the financial crisis happened, I started needing to kind of look around for other options. And I had to come back to the US for totally separate, unrelated reasons. And I needed to be here, but I didn't need to be in any particular place. And so I started just talking to some of my friends, and one of my friends was like, come back to Gardner. Like, just come back for a visit. And I was like, Gardner was awesome in the winter. Like, yeah, I'll come back. So I came back for what was supposed to be a few weeks, and somebody was like, do you need a job? You're a biologist? And I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, money, that'd be nice. So I went to work for a rafting company doing general park tours.
Okay.
It was the first time I'd ever done anything in tourism. And it was really fun because it was like, oh, here I get to sort of share the joys of treasure hunting for wildlife with guests,
Yeah.
So all the field survey work I had done, I'd always been out on the land or in the ocean looking for different species of animals. I've done botanical surveys. I've done a lot of different things. But it was fun to get to share it with people who, for whom this is not normal. And so had a great time, went back to Australia. Things fell apart there more. It became apparent that I couldn't stay there and I had to move somewhere. And so I took a 5-day walk and thought about it and was like, yeah, Yellowstone. Let's do that. So I got a job working for a different company, doing wildlife watching tours. Enjoyed that very much, but it wasn't a good employee-employer relationship.
Yep.
And I was really gutted about it, actually, because I loved guiding so much, but working for the company I was working for, just really wasn't working out. So I ended up starting my own company, and that was not my, I was never an entrepreneur, so it was never like my ambition, but I'm grateful for the push because it's been really good. And
good for you too. Yeah. That's a big leap to take too.
Yeah. As I've been at it it'll be 11 years in July now, and it's been good. It's been really good.
So does that make you enjoy biology and your work more, just being able to share it with people that
Yes.
are just excited and eager to come see it?
Yeah, and I love all the questions that I get because everybody's got a different background. They've got different expertise and different things, just a totally different perspective. And the questions they ask are so thought provoking. You know?
Yeah, I've noticed that in my industry too. Is just, I mean, you could say it's just driving, but then you meet so many people, and every experience is different because every client's different. So
Totally.
you could say it's the same mundane thing every day, but it's really never is because the people are. I mean, if you took it from just being a truck driver, but then you add a new person in every day, and it totally just paints a new perspective on everything.
Yeah.
And then there could be both ends of that being awesome and terrible, depending
Totally.
on.
Every once in a while, you get somebody where you're like, well, luckily, I won't be spending time with you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have you ever hitchhiked?
No, I picked up hitchhikers.
How'd that go?
It went okay. It was like short distances, really around here. If people are in like, if it's dire cold conditions, and I'm like you're almost worried that like, man, I really feel bad. Yeah, if I don't pick you up, like I don't know what's gonna.
Yeah.
It's dark out and it's sub-zero, and generally fine. Like I haven't had any issues, so I've just like given people a lift, short, nothing too far.
Yeah.
One guy had told me he was like, kind of had a career of being a bum. And was like he's like, I'm going to go south now for the winter. And I'm like, oh, this is like, you've got this sort of planned out in a really strange way.
Yeah, it's a different way of working. When I'd finished almost finished my undergraduate. I had like a semester off in Australia, and there's some parts of Australia that are rural enough that you don't have public transportation. They have better public transportation than we do. And I wasn't like financially set up in the way to be, be able to hire a mountain mule.
Sure.
You guys weren't there. And so, I would go hitchhiking with friends. I usually didn't do it alone unless I was like really in a closed community where it was like, you're kind of asking somebody to ask their friend for a ride sort of thing. But I was always astonished by, it's like you get picked up by somebody and you have time to talk to them and get to know them. And we met just the most incredible people.
Yeah.
Like some of them I still talk to 20 years later.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking about that on the way up here. How your work is probably similar to hitchhiking, where you just, you pick people up. They come from diverse backgrounds. You probably learn something new every day. I certainly do from my guests. And I kind of love it. It's like a random generator of information and experience.
I have definite, like, it's funny, next Friday I'm going to a birthday party. This is one of my clients. But like, years go by and they keep using the service and you keep in touch for whatever, but there's so many clients that are just, they're real relationships.
Yeah, totally. I just finished a 5-day trip in Yellowstone with this amazing group of people. And I have to, I'm not to brag, but I'm going to share a very kind compliment that one of them gave me. She said, my life is better because I met you this week. And I was just like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Like, what an honor, but also mutual. Like, it was really, really, really cool to meet her. And like, I want to read her book. She hasn't written it yet, but you know what I mean? Like when you meet people where you're like, you're cool. I want to know more. So you just never know.
Yeah, funny enough, the whole podcasting space with me and my buddy Kyle started it is because, and why I'm doing the ones for businesses now is I would just love to connect people more because you realize what you gain just from these relationships.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a privilege for me to be able to sit down with you and anyone and, hear about what you do and your story. And then to be able to share that with people and be like, hey, go use their service. Like this person's awesome. We've worked together for years, and it makes it so much better of an experience other than just, it's a transaction. Here's my money. Give me what I need. See you later.
Yeah.
I think there's a...
Yeah, it probably feels better as a guest, I'm going to guess. Like,
yeah,
I know
when
I travel, which I have a major travel problem, but we've all got to have something to spend our resources on.
Sure.
But when I go somewhere and it's like, the taxi driver knows the hotel owner and you're like working with all these different individuals, and you feel like you're like clicked into the community all of a sudden. It feels really good, right? It just it feels special and inviting. So I hope to create that for our visitors.
Yeah, and I know like you've referred us plenty of times for your clients, and I know I've reached out to you a couple of times, and I'm so glad we just got to like really know what you guys do, because now I can share it with everyone that asks. Here, this is who you call. Listen to this, and because I've asked you that a few times, I'm like, man, I want to know more in depth of what it is. What does somebody have? And I literally have that now, so I'm very pumped.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's nice to know, like, Susie recommended you, and I trust her. Like, she's just an above board person that knows what's going on, and it's nice to have confidence that like you're gonna pick people up, you're gonna drive carefully, you're gonna be a nice person and talk to them and help them feel welcome. And it's like the service has already begun before I've even met them, and I feel totally secure about they're in good hands, you know.
Yeah.
Much better than people driving on winter roads in a rental car with no snow tires.
Yeah. No, we had it earlier this season. We had some clients have a place up in Big Sky. Some friends came out. They got a rental car. The rental car was 2-wheel drive. They had, they reserved an SUV, but it was 2-wheel drive. And one of my guys drove it back for them, and we drove them back because they were mortified driving up there. And it's all, it's all incline.
Yeah.
Going to Big Sky.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they got the hard part out of the way. We drove it back downhill. But still, I totally get it when it's not your city or your town, and you come here and you don't know anything, to just hop in a car with somebody and hope they know what they're doing and know how to drive. And
totally. And I've recently I was in North Carolina in January, and it snowed a few inches, and I almost asked the Uber driver if I could drive because he was doing all the wrong things to do in snow. It doesn't snow there very often.
Yeah.
He was like speeding toward the curves and then braking in them. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're all going to die. I was so worried. And it makes a really big difference as to, whether you're showing up with your nerves intact or not. And I should add, like, none of the national rental car companies offer snow tires. So I think we often use you all in the winter because we have more of those visitors that do the package trips and want to arrange transportation, and it's just so seamless. I'm like, it's worth it. If you can do it, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unless you're using like a smaller private rental company, like, which you can talk to to somebody who's managing their own fleet, but the rental cars just come from all over the country, and they're not swapping tires when they show up here in Bozeman or wherever and putting snow tires on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunately, there are a lot of days around here where you need them.
Yeah.
Not that they solve every problem, but they certainly help.
Yeah. To an extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you go driving on the pass? Like, you're on the Bozeman Pass a lot more than I'm like, I live in awe of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just try not to as much as possible. Like, we go to Big Sky a lot more when the weather's bad, just because so much of our business is people that come out to ski. But I mean, I really try to avoid the interstate at all costs when the weather's bad.
Yeah,
because it's just there's the volume of traffic, and then
the size of some of the vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, if a big rig flips over or starts going.
And the speed they drive through here, like, they're fearless.
Yeah.
I mean, so we just do it and take our time when we have to, but it's like, I mean, you do the best you can, because if somebody's got to get through there, they got to get through there.
Yeah. Wow.
I know people who are local to Livingston, and they've been like, hey, one of my family members is flying in. Can you pick them up and drive them over? I'm like, I know what you're doing. Like, I don't want to do that any more than you, but yes, that's what we do. And we're well equipped as we can be, so we do it. But I've had plenty of people do that.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a testament to people's trust, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But also a little bit like, you cheeky bugger.
Yeah. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, totally.
Do you have any siblings?
I have a brother.
Okay. So is he around? What's the age gap when you guys were growing up?
He's 3.5 years older than me. He was actually born in Livingston.
Okay.
My parents used to live in Big Timber and out in Prairie. So before I hatched, they were around. That was in my dad's cowboy days. He's a firefighter in Fresno.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. That's Texas?
No, Fresno, California.
Okay. I'm thinking Fresno,
Yeah,
Texas.
I think there's a Fresno, and I think there's a few of them.
What did you say the name of the town of Wyoming was?
Wheatland. It's
Do
about
you know the population there?
Ooh, not many. It's about an hour north of Cheyenne.
Okay.
And it's actually a kind of a cute little town. It's right off now I'm not going to remember my interstate numbers. But if you're ever driving north from Denver, Cheyenne, and just going north, it's not very far off the interstate. And it's a cute little old town. It's the county seat. But it's really not got a lot going for it. I just lived there because my dad was a cowboy on a ranch outside of Livingston. Fort Laramie is there. That's a little bit famous, and it's like where some of the pioneer wagon trains came through, and people died of dysentery.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Is that country. It's a very subtle country, but it's a great place to see prairie dogs and get a cup of coffee and say hi to Wheatland.
Is Fort Laramie anywhere near Laramie or no?
No, they're different.
Totally
different parts of the state.
Yeah.
But Fort Laramie is actually pretty cool. There's a really good bookstore in Wheatland. They turned the old hardware store, I think it was, into this amazing bookstore, coffee shop. I hope it's still open. I haven't been for a few years, but I can plug that. It's not,
Do you know the name of it or no?
Oh,
you
gosh,
said
I
this
don't
is
remember.
in Wheatland?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
in the town of Wheatland. It's like the town's only about 3 blocks, so you kind of can't miss it. And if you stop by the chamber, they'll sort you out.
Okay, yeah. There's a chamber in a smaller town. It's such a resource.
It is such a resource. It's like an instant way to just get connected into everybody.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, I don't know if people use them in bigger cities, but in a lot of towns out here, I've called chambers when I'm going to towns or anything, and they're very resourcul.
Yes.
It's like talking to a local that's been there their whole life.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully that's who's working in the chamber.
Yeah, you would hope.
And they're like, oh yeah, this person does this, and so yeah.
How do most of your clients find you?
Most of them find me online or by word of mouth.
Okay.
So a lot of times, I love this. Somebody will be having a chat with somebody else, and we're going to Yellowstone, and one of my past visitors will be like, you have to go on this trip. And sometimes there's some pretty ridiculous reorganization of people's plans to make it happen, but it always feels cool. It's almost like getting a living postcard, it's like when you meet a friend of a friend and you already have something in common, I don't know. It just it feels like a different interaction than when it's just a random person.
Yeah. Do you guys so you guys only operate out of Gardner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I think I've talked to you about that. I've had people in Big Sky area ask, and I'm like, well, you gotta go around.
Yeah, it's really hard because Yellowstone is so big, and as the crow flies, we're not very far away from Big Sky, but as the car drives, it's a ways. And so I always just encourage people to stay in a few different places if you can. Mountain Meal will get you there, but we can always
Thank you.
we can always meet people in the park too.
Yep.
It's a little difficult if they're getting driven to Big Sky and they don't have a car, but if folks do have a vehicle for part of their vacation, especially if they're coming in the warm half of the year, we can meet centrally in the park or something like that, or just come to Gardner.
Yeah, this was last year. I was dropping someone off in West Yellowstone, and then I had to pick up at Mammoth, and I'm like, I'm so close, but I have to drive so far. It's like,
yes,
it was just so irritating.
Because was the road not open?
Yeah, nothing was open. Yeah, because I think it was February.
Oh no, yeah.
I'm like, come on, there's got to be a way. Can't somebody let me through there?
Yeah, I really wish there was a better way to in the winter this is a pipe dream.
Yep.
Maybe, who knows? I'm gonna share my pipe dream with you. Maybe we can turn it into a scheme. But I think it would be so cool to enable people to like ski at Big Sky and ski at Bridger, and then like do some wildlife watching out of Gardner, and take the snow coach through and go to Old Faithful, and like come back out at West Yellowstone, and kind of like loop it around. But it would take kind of multiple people in multiple places. But it would be a wonderful adventure.
No, it's a great idea to talk about, because if you get enough people in on it, like there's ways to make it happen.
Yeah, totally.
Because I've told my clients, they'll just come out here to ski in Big Sky for the week. And I'm like, you know what, this is what I would do. And I'm like, totally. And some people have pushed back and said, well, you tried to do that with 4 kids and you're asking a lot, but I don't have any kids, so this is what I would do.
That's your fault for letting them outnumber you. I mean, come on.
So I'd say go ski Big Sky. It's great. It's awesome skiing. You got to do it. But then come to Bozeman, stay here for a day or two, ski Bridger. You're also then staying 20 minutes from the airport and not an hour and 15 with a canyon that you've got to drive through.
Yeah.
Because, some people have a 6 a.m. flight leaving Bozeman, and they're leaving Big Sky at 3 a.m. You got to drive through that canyon.
That to me, it just seems like a very cavalier thing to do with yourself.
Yeah. But no, what you just added makes it a full experience of being out here. Because I think you're right. If you're missing the park, but you're coming this close.
Yeah.
But if you could do that loop, West Yellowstone to Gardner, all the way through.
Yeah.
And you could even stay in Livingston at night if you want.
Yeah.
Depends on your...
Livingston's awesome. It has some great breweries. It's a cute little town. I like Livingston because it's still got some authenticity. Like it hasn't been totally polished.
Yeah. I agree.
And I don't know. I dig it.
My mother stayed in the Murray.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
She thought it was cool. We went up and checked it all out, because how could you not if someone you know is staying there? She told me like her ghost experiences that she had in there. What? And they were like reading all the history of like, oh, this person died here and this person. And which she seems like, I mean, as far as I know, she's like a very sane person. But she's like, she swears on these ghost experiences she's had.
Yeah. I've had some situations in places, actually up in the Redwoods, where I was like, that I don't have a scientific explanation for that there. Yeah. Something happened.
Yeah, she didn't either. So I'll have to get her to tell that story on the podcast next time she does it.
The ghost stories of the Murray.
But I mean, there's a lot of history there from...
Yeah. Actually, one of the things that has surprised me about living in Montana is how many amazing historic hotels there are here. Like, have you ever been to... I'm sure you've been to Three Forks, to the Sacagawea Inn?
I haven't been to the inn, no.
Dude, you got to go check it out. Like, even if you just pop in and check out the lobby, it's...
So are they associated with the Lewis and Clark here or no? That's totally different.
I think they're totally different.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know anything about the ownership at all, but it is an exquisite old hotel there's been a lot of love and care in restoring it. It has creaky, crooked staircases and all the things that old hotels have, but it's just such a cool experience. And then the what is it called? The Missouri Headwaters State Park that's right there is actually really awesome. Like, it's got great birding, and it's this treasure that, like, I don't know why no one told me about it until I had lived here for years. But there, and then the Grand Union Hotel in Fort Benton is another one that's like...
So Fort Benton, I've been to, because my sister lives up that way.
Oh, okay.
I think we met her there for dinner one night.
Yeah.
However, I'm pretty sure it was Fort Benton. That was the, like, meeting point.
Yeah.
It's a really small town, right?
It's a tiny town. Yeah. It has a really important place in Montana history, because it was where the steamboats coming up the Missouri, that was as far as they could get. And so everybody got offloaded there, and all the goods got moved from, the boat to ground transportation, mule teams, etc. And so there's been just a tremendous number of historic figures that have stayed in the hotel.
Is there some sort of ferry up there near that area? Because I know my sister's talked about the ferry. I'm not sure which.
I don't know.
Somewhere it goes across, like you can go around or you can take the ferry
Oh, huh. Yeah, and I've only been up there a couple of times to go canoeing, but there's a tremendous amount about that region that I do not know. So I wouldn't be surprised.
You mentioned it for that nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
That's when it rang the bell. But I swear, I can't remember the place we got dinner there, but there's probably only one or two places.
They actually have quite a few decent restaurants in Fort Benton. Like, not to slag on Gardner at all, but I actually was a little envious of Fort Benton for the quality of their food.
Okay.
That's an area of improvement that we have in Gardner. We have a few restaurants, but we don't kind of have enough to meet the needs of our guests, and the food is a little bit less diverse than maybe my palate would prefer.
Yeah. And it's tricky because it's such a seasonal town too. So I don't know.
It is and it isn't. I mean, since I've been there, like I said earlier, the winter has been becoming increasingly popular, but I think, with the pandemic and the flood in 2022 knocked out a lot of our restaurants, because it was like the pandemic was a thing and it definitely impacted restaurants in a unique and particular way. But then we had the fire also in 2020, in July of 2020, that burned down some of our buildings and burned, some of those buildings had businesses in them. And then we had the flood of 2022, and it was just like, really.
I don't know why I thought that was 21, that flood.
Yeah, it was 2022, June 13th.
Yeah, because it was like just recovering from COVID and everything. And then I was like, man, this is like.
Yeah, we kind of got kicked while we were down. And it was hard because it was June, and June is like this month of kind of pivoting, right? Like May is busy, but June is when things really kick off. And there are some activities in Gardner, like horseback rides and river rafting and that sort of stuff, that really, really come in June. So from a business owner's perspective, like you're spending all the money to make your summer happen, right? Like you're paying for your insurance and your products and all the stuff that makes your summer season happen, and then bam, it closed. So it really was poor timing.
Yeah.
But luckily nobody died, and it's an amazing community. I'm really impressed with the way that people support each other. I mean, it's only 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And we have about 2.5 million that come through our town every summer. So it's a lot. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. I remember the day that some of that flooding was at its peak, I was driving through the canyon to Big Sky and the Gallatin. It was insane.
Oh my gosh.
And then everyone's like, well, the Yellowstone's even worse right now and everything.
And you're probably like, how can it be worse than that?
Yeah, I don't know if you know how familiar you are with the canyon, but there's that house rock.
Yeah.
The water was hitting it and then making a geyser off the top of it.
What?
And now every time I drive through there, you see that rock, and it's like it's probably an 18-foot tall rock.
Yeah, it sticks up
sticking
like a
out
house.
of the water, and literally, the water was on top of it.
Wow.
One of the client in the truck was taking a video of it, but I was like, it's insane. And of course, there's guys that are on kayaks putting in because they're out of their minds.
Because kayakers.
Because and I guess I don't know if that river will ever look like that again in their lifetime. Hopefully not.
I hope not. Yeah. I honestly, that was my first big natural disaster. It gave me a lot of new perspectives for sure. But yeah, I'm like, I hope we don't have more of that. And now when things like that happen in other places, I'm just like, ooh, because there's so many impacts that aren't immediately obvious. It takes a while for them to all play out and to resolve. And a lot of times when you're in a natural disaster, you're so busy trying to take care of whatever problem you have in front of you, and it's hard to look around and gain perspective about your neighbors. And sometimes after the fact, you're like, oh my gosh, that was way worse than what I was dealing with, and I don't like how I prioritize things, but there you are doing the best you can.
Yeah, it's hard to have a lot of perspective outside yourself too, when your whole world just got turned upside down.
Yeah. Well, when you can't even convince your brain that this is reality. Like I remember standing out in my neighbor's yard looking at the Yellowstone River with these just massive old trees floating down the river and just being like, is this real?
Yeah, that was one of the most impressive things is the size of the trees and the speed they were moving down the river.
Yeah. It was this is a funny way to describe this, but I live at mile marker 4 on Highway 89, and I live probably about 500 yards from the river. So I can see the river, but I'm back a ways from it. But the water was moving with such force that the cobble and all the rocks on the bottom were like grinding together, and I could feel them in my bed.
Oh, wow.
It was such a severe event that even my cat noticed. He was like sitting in the window looking out at the river like, that's not normal. And I mean, cats are pretty oblivious. So it was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, even when you drive up and down the Yellowstone now and you see the banks, just like you could see where the water was, and it's hard to even imagine even when you saw it.
Yeah. Have you ever walked down the old road that we used to take to go up to Mammoth? Now that it's been destroyed?
No. Oh. It's accessible. So it's funny because in 2019, that's when I went to the Boiling River.
Yeah.
And then it's not there anymore. It's like,
well, I mean, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. I'm glad you brought it up because I'm sure you get asked about it all the time, but the river, the Gardner River changed course a lot. So now where the river is separate from where the hot springs are. So they don't mix anymore.
okay.
So there aren't any temperatures that one would find pleasant to put their body in.
I got you.
It's either way too hot or way too cold.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's, if you get a chance to go there, you kind of park near the entrance station.
Okay.
And just walk up the old road. It's super cool because it's kind of like apocalyptic beauty, and you can see all of the old reinforcements on the road and like the big sewer pipe that ran under the road. It's like mangled and in pieces in the river, and you can see bits of it sticking out, and then there's like kingfishers hanging out in the river, and the wildlife are all kind of like coming back doing their thing. And then you just have this like bizarre deserted road. It's really fascinating, especially if you've been on it before. And you can get past the first 3 sections that were destroyed. The 4th one is like, it's just a straight up slide. So you can't walk past that one.
It's kind of blurry, even like remembering that. And I remember the first time I went to Mammoth with the new road, I'm like, oh, this is so weird. Because you come in over that way and you're like, oh, it's all backwards.
Yeah, totally. It's a completely different experience. I loved the old road, but I'm also happy for the river and the bighorn sheep. Remember how you'd often come down from Mammoth and you'd come around a corner and you'd be like, oh, there's sheep on the road. I'm kind of excited for them to not have to deal with, crossing the road anymore.
Something's going on up there.
Yeah.
I just thought of this. Do you know much about the Silvertip Ranch?
I don't know much about it. Like I see their mules and horses and their horse-drawn carriages going in and out because I do go to Slough Creek a lot to watch wolves there. Although I'm usually there earlier in the morning. And then I sometimes hike on that trail, although I tend to avoid it unless I have to once Silvertip's operational.
Yep.
Because I've almost been run over by some of their horse-drawn carriages. They're not always like real patient about letting hikers get off the trail, and at least one of their wranglers was pretty unpleasant. And so I'm like, I don't want to interact with you anymore.
Yeah, I can tell you just because we've driven a bunch of the people out. I think I don't know if he's a sole owner, or if there's multiple owners, but he got in contact with us years ago. What he does is flies some of his friends out every year, and they go out there for a few weeks. I bet you if I put you in contact with him, he'd probably invite you to the ranch.
I would love to see it.
Because he he's had a bunch of people from the university. I know he does a lot of stuff with Montana State, but I know he loves, like he's done a lot for the park from what I understand.
Awesome.
And people might have mixed views on him. I don't know if it's a big political thing or whatever, but I know because I've talked to some of the guests and like, oh yeah, I've been taking a course here at the school or teaching here at the school, and he invited us out. But if next time I talk to him, I'll mention what you guys do.
I would love that, because look, it is such an incredible piece of the planet, and I presume it's an old private inholding that predates the national forest, because it's you to access it, you have to go through the national park by Slough Creek, and then you hit the national forest boundary, and like it's got to be one of the most spectacular nuggets of land on Earth. So
yeah, and I think it's just completely vacant in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was telling me or some of the friends were, but they put a bunch of beams inside it for the snow load.
Whoa.
So the whole thing's reinforced.
Wow.
And then however, I don't know if it's steel, I don't know what the fabrication is, but then they're removable for the season when they're open, but it's all this reinforcement for the snow load.
I wonder if they're like, what do you call it? Like the metal things that you crank to, I don't even know what those are called.
Like a pulley or a come along or something, a winch?
More like supports. I don't remember what they're called. We used them when we were building my house. I'm stoked to know that it's a nice person that owns that.
Yeah, the guy's very pleasant. He's an older gentleman. He's always like smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, if he asks me if he can smoke cigarettes in my vehicle, so I'm gonna have to break his heart. But he fortunately hasn't. But I met generally all the people he invites out are very interesting, and have something to do with wildlife or the park or just different friends he knows. But next time I talk to him, I'll mention it, like because he had mentioned to me, he's like, oh, I should have you come out sometime. I'm like, yeah, please let me know when. I'd love to. I'd give for the opportunity.
Yes, please, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very unique because of where it sits, because I know he's taken a helicopter there. So he's got a helicopter pad up there, and then everyone takes the horse and wagon up, or they hike it. It depends on the individual and their ambition. Yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible, incredible hike, and I've seen amazing things along that trail.
I know a friend of mine ran into a grizzly on that trail, and I hear the mentions of that all the time when they.
Yeah. I mean, anywhere in Yellowstone, you need to be bear aware. I always take my bear spray. Sometimes, like when we're backpacking, we usually have a few cans on us, whoever's in the front, whoever's in the back. But there are parts of Yellowstone that have a higher density of grizzlies than others. Mm-hmm. And that Slough Creek drainage, I mean, it has an incredible abundance of just animal life. Like, it's an amazing place to bird. A lot of people go fishing there. There's a wolf pack called the Junction Butte Pack that has denned near where the road ends and the trail begins, kind of that general region for the last 9 years, I think. They had a couple years off, and they used that den other previous years before I lived in the Yellowstone ecosystem. Fingers crossed they'll be using it again this year. But there's just, every time I go in there, especially like May, June, sometimes I see badgers, sometimes I see beavers. There's always a proliferation of ground squirrels. Mm-hmm. There's a golden eagle nest in there. There's like just a ton of good wildlife activity, and it's a very berry area, both for black bears and grizzlies.
Have you had any? What's the craziest bear encounter experience you've had? Oh. And does anyone carry firearms? Are you?
So under our commercial use authorization, we're not allowed to carry firearms. I probably would be a pretty poor shot. Anyways, like bear spray, you kind of like, the nice thing about bear spray is like, you do not have to be a good aim. Mm-hmm. You just have to kind of get it in the general vicinity. But let's see, crazy bear stories.
What's that use? Is that insurance?
Commercial use authorization is what we have worked out with that's our permit system. That's like what it's called, our permit that we have to operate inside of Yellowstone.
Okay.
So we have special rules about what we can and can't do as a condition of our permit, and then we pay a percentage of our gross to the Park Service for the privilege of operating there. It's a little bit like a special use permit in the Forest Service, but completely different paperwork. Forest Service is actually a lot more onerous, at least in Gallatin. Every forest and national park is completely different. They're like unique places, unique systems, I think. Bear story. I think this is kind of a nice bear story, but it was crazy. We were staying down in the Beckler, and I don't know why the Park Service decided. So we have these things called bear bars, which I really hope someday somebody names a bar the Bear Bar. But
it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a whole scheme there, but I don't want to open a bar. I'm like, too much for me, but someone should.
No, there's a lot of reasons that's a really cool, catchy name.
Yeah. You could have like little bear-shaped bar stools. You could have bear bar games. So what bear bars are in the backcountry is just a horizontal, like fairly thick log that is held up into trees.
Okay.
And it's at least 8 feet across the span, so that when you bring like a sack and some rope, and you can put some weight in the sack, throw your rope up over the bear bar, which is a fun game that you could play at the proverbial bear bar. But you use that to hoist your bag of food up so that a bear can't access it. So in this particular campsite, for some reason, the rangers had put the bear bar in the most beautiful berry patch I have seen. It was a really nice berry patch. We were there in, I think, early September, so peak berry season. And we were doing our dishes from dinner. We'd cooked right by the bear bar, done our thing. And we were done eating. I was doing the dishes, and I had kind of seen movement, but it was deep enough in the berry patch that I was like, it's probably a deer. Like, I don't know. Anyways, all this time, there had been a black bear in the berry patch, and it finally like moved to where we could see its ears and the top of its back. And I was like, that is way too close to us. And so I was like yelling at the bear to try and scare it off, because it was, everything was out. It wasn't like we could retreat safely and just leave everything, because the bear could potentially get into it. And the bear kind of stood up and looked at us, dropped back down, and just went back to eating berries. That bear did not care at all. And we were at this campsite for 2 days, and that was the only bear bar. So we kept having to go like have somebody watch, like stand on a rock and watch for the bear when we hung our stuff. And like next morning, same thing. That night, the bear was like rummaging around eating berries. It never ever did anything. Like, there was never any behavior that indicated the bear was interested in us or our food. It was just way too comfortable. And it was a real pain as a guide. Like, I didn't want to spray the bear. I didn't want to chase the bear off. It really wasn't doing anything, quote unquote, wrong. Yeah. But I also did not like the lack of visibility and where they put the bear bar.
I mean, probably if the bear bars buy those berries, it's probably a general occurrence for it.
Yeah.
There's just people hanging their food up.
Or that bear's been eating at that berry patch every year since its mother taught it to 10 years ago. And now these stupid two-leggeds put a bear bar in its berry patch, and it's just continuing to do its thing. I can't blame the bear, but it was just like, it was a really challenging circumstance, because we were like, how do we manage this? But it was all fine. We ended up calling him Barry. And we would just take our food down and like go cook somewhere else really far away. It was a little bit of a pain, but it was okay.
How common are those bear bars? Are they all over the place?
Every backcountry campsite has either a bear locker, or a bear bar. Most of them have bear bars. So the reason that you have to book a backcountry campsite in Yellowstone is so that you have a resource like that.
Okay.
Because hanging your food in a tree, if you have the right tree and the right setup, it's pretty good. But a lot of times you end up breaking a branch off and it falls on your head, and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I've done it in like just in the backcountry, and it's tricky. Like you gotta
really
gotta
look
find
around.
the right
Yeah.
branch in the right situation, and then you want it to be like not 3 miles from where you're camping.
Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I consider it a complete luxury. And a lot of times people have like little, people will kind of collect things. There'll be some comfortable rocks to sit on or a couple of logs or whatever. And so it actually makes it nice because you kind of have a place that's very clearly your cooking area. And then you put your tent somewhere at least 50 yards away.
Are these only in the park, or are these on like
I've
national
seen
forest?
them in the national forest, but in the park, it's a little bit more systematic. This is in Yellowstone. So Glacier, completely different story, I should mention. But in Yellowstone, you actually book the backcountry campsites, and it's just you and whoever you book with is there. They don't add extra people up to the capacity or anything. And every one of them has either a bear bar or bear blocker. And so it's nice. And that's why you're not allowed to just camp wherever you want.
Yeah.
Whereas in the national forest, I've seen bear bars, but I don't think they're well mapped. I haven't been able to find a resource that tells me where they are. So it's kind of a discovery when you're like, ooh, cool, there's a bear bar there. And a lot of times in the forest, you're just kind of doing what you did, figuring it out.
Yeah, you're
finding a spot.
kind of winging it.
Yeah, totally.
Do you have any protocols when you're camping or anything as far as bear safety for?
So many. Yeah, we have a whole discussion about it. I also never in my life thought that I would, as part of my job, teach people how to go to the bathroom outside.
Go figure.
Yeah, this is pretty odd.
It's a national pastime for a lot of us.
Yeah. But it's amazing how many people go backpacking and have never used the great outdoors. So, but yeah, we have a whole protocol, and we have to be really careful and mindful about not leaving stuff that smells good in our tents, and just keeping that stuff separate and inaccessible to bears. Bears are super, super, super smart animals, and I think that they have a really we know they have an excellent sense of smell.
Yeah.
But I think that have you ever smelt a smell and gotten really strong nostalgia?
Yeah, sure.
So I think that may be the closest I've come to being a bear. I think the reason that bears spend so much time with mom is she's kind of teaching them a foraging route, and she teaches them what is food. And then they remember the smell of that. And I know bears can smell a carcass from 20 miles away, but I'm assuming they can also smell a lot of their other food sources. And they remember oh, that's a thing I can eat. So once they get your Reese's peanut butter cup, that's a lot of calories.
Yeah.
And they're not going to forget what that was like.
No, that makes sense.
And they're going to be able to detect it from really far away. And so kind of keeping bears naive, keeping things inaccessible to them is so critical to backcountry safety, not just for you on the day that you're backpacking, but everybody who comes after you.
Yeah.
So it's hard. They hold us to a really high accountability. We've had a lot of bear conflict in Gardner last year that is a whole nother story, but we really need to up our game. We're working on it. My friend Evan is on it.
Okay. What's he do?
Evan Stout runs Yellowstone Wildlife Guide Company, and he also runs Bear Awareness Gardner. Okay. Which is helping people get bear-proof trash cans, helping people make sure that bears don't get into their stuff, because that's not good for people and it's not good for bears.
Yeah, I live just up the street from here. It's every year with black bears, and my landlords are awesome about it because they lived in the park for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So they don't put any trash out till the day of. Yeah. But it's it's every year. They're in the trash and and it's, I don't know, it's just something that I've always thought if you're going to live here, you got to respect this place, and that those have to be just something on the priority list. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, it's just, these are the neighbors that you get. We have elk neighbors, we have bison neighbors, we have bear neighbors. And like in Gardner, we don't even have trash collection. You have to take it to the transfer station. Unfortunately, our transfer station, like, I cannot believe no one's been mauled or that we haven't had like major bear problems, because it's really not that secure, and it's right by the river, but we'll work on it. But yeah, nobody comes and takes your trash. You have to take it yourself, because it can't sit out.
Yeah.
They're just too smart. But some people do not have properly secured waste, or we had a problem with our grease traps. I know we're not supposed to call them that. Cooking oil containment at the restaurants. And some of the bears were getting
Why
into
can't
that.
you call them grease traps?
I guess in the industry, that's like not what they're called now. So, and cooking oil is like really valuable for biofuels. So they don't want the bears to come and eat it. But we had bears getting into cooking oil, used cooking oil. And whoever the company is that does used cooking oil collection in Gardner was like right on it and got these metal welded guards so that the bears couldn't get into the used cooking oil anymore. So that at least secured that problem, and like major accolades to them. But we have Gardner's not a town.
Yeah.
It's not a city. We have we're an unincorporated part of Park County. And so, a lot of times it's just about talking to people and encouraging them to do the right thing because it's safe, not because there are any rules to be enforced. And so it's hard to get everybody 100% on the same page when people are moving in and moving out, or they've lived there a long time and it's never been a problem before. So it's challenging, but...
Yeah, I never thought about that, but it's worth thinking about. It's like the food safety when you're not camping.
Yeah.
Because someone else might pay the price for your carelessness.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, if you're just anywhere in the park or wherever and you're eating chocolate and you're just throwing it around, and like you said, those smells get associated, and then it's...
Yeah, I'm known I'm known as a bit of a jerk about crumbs. Like if my guests drop crumbs from their morning baked goods on the ground, I have a little broom and dustpan and I clean it up because I don't want the ravens habituated to it and coming around and bugging us, because they're going to invite other animals too. But I'm probably more fastidious than most people.
You have a great reason to be.
I mean, I don't want to get mauled by a bear.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen to somebody else either. But yeah, it can go really wrong. This one grizzly that got euthanized over the past summer, he got euthanized in July. He got so badly habituated that he was breaking into people's homes.
Oh, wow.
And that's just really that's not cool. And the bear ended up dying. So, and it wasn't like it was a whole bunch of events that led to him becoming that habituated. So it wasn't like one incident. It was many. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Just, I was traveling like a week or two ago, and they've got it on Delta flights. They have Epic Yellowstone.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you've seen that.
No. I haven't flown Delta for a very long time.
It's nice. I'd recommend it.
Okay. That's good to know. Because United, not so much.
Yeah. I think Delta's like the top of the food chain for...
Oh, wow.
That's just an opinion, but a lot of people have agreed with that. But they have TVs and everything's free, like anything you watch. But there's a 4-part series, Epic Yellowstone.
Oh, wow.
It was cool. It was cool to watch, and it was showing what the bears will do in the summertime when they go up to elevation and they eat all the
army cutworm moths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. The amount of calories that they'll eat in a day.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they have to fatten up, right? I don't know if this happens to you, and maybe I'm just imagining it because I spend too much time contemplating bears. But I feel like when the weather changes in the fall, my metabolism like kicks up a notch and I'm just hungrier. Like,
oh, interesting.
I just feel like I need to, like, I just can't get satisfied. There's like a few weeks where I'm like just hungry all the time. And I always wonder if it's like, just a physical adaptation to like winter is coming, calorie up.
And you're so connected to that, like to the park and to nature in that sense.
There's a word for it called hyperphagia.
Okay.
It just means eating a lot, but bears go into hyperphagia in the fall. And so they're particularly, susceptible to getting into mischief at that time of year.
Yeah, what did it say? How many calories will they, like, it said the percentage of calories for their annual intake that they'll eat when they go up to get those moths.
I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but
I might have said like
phenomenal.
30% or something.
Yeah.
I was like, that's insane.
They're like, those moths are like little nuggets of fat and protein.
Yeah. Have you ever eaten the crickets or anything?
I haven't actually.
I've had the fry. I heard they fried. I don't know how they're prepared, but they have them in Seattle, like at baseball games.
No way.
Yeah.
Popcorn and fried crickets.
They're very salty, but I thought they were kind of good, if I'm being honest.
I ate a grub when I was in Ecuador a year and a half ago. They have these really fatty grubs that live in certain, I think they're certain palm trees, and they kind of roast them like popcorn, and it was nutty. I mean, it's not like what I would go out and order at a restaurant, but if I needed calories, I would eat that.
Yeah.
So
because I know they're very high protein. All those like crickets and anything.
Yeah, and they reproduce quickly, and
the amount that bears got to eat but that's all they're doing.
It's their job to get fat. Really, it's pretty cool. Have you ever seen the Fat Bear Week thing from Alaska?
No.
Check it out. It's a little bit morbid, but also awesome.
Yeah, I don't know where that epic Yellowstone plays. That's the first time I saw or heard anything of it. It's on Delta Airlines, but I'm assuming it's on some streaming service somewhere. But I think it was 4-part series. I got through 2 of them anyway.
I'll have to look it up. It sounds fun. Yellowstone's incredible. It's a little bit intimidating because there's such a huge body of literature. There's so many films. There's just so much. It feels there's so much art that's been inspired by the place.
Oh, that's an interesting one, I'll tell you. So this has happened 2 years in a row. This company, I don't know because this is so out of my world, but they're fashion designers. Oh. And they come from France. Oh. They've come the last 2 years, and they send these are very high-end designers. They send them to the park for a week long for inspiration.
I love it.
So they're like, they're coming from another country and they're just taking in nature. And this is how they essentially breed all this inspiration for what they design. But they did it 2 years ago, and then they did it again this past year. So I'm assuming they like what they got out of it.
They must have had a good enough time.
Yeah.
We get a lot of French visitors to Yellowstone. Do you drive many folks, or?
We don't drive to the park a lot, which I wanted to ask you about some of that after, but no, not necessarily. But these groups, because they send like a couple dozen people out. Yeah. So we were
need transportation.
We drove them around here, and then what they did from here is beyond me. But
that's really cool.
Yeah,
it's just, it's inspiring for so many different people in so many different ways, and Yellowstone has had people. There's evidence all around, if you know how to see it, of a really, really long-term human occupation. A lot of different people. We have 27 federally recognized tribes associated with Yellowstone, and probably another 20 or 25 groups that aren't recognized that have a past and or present relationship with the park. It's just been really popular with a lot of people for a really, really long time. So
I'll have to see if I have any photos on my phone. So it's funny because we were talking about clients that you become friends with. A friend of mine, he's the one whose birthday party I'm going to, funny enough. He's on the board for the Museum of the Rockies.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, hey, if you ever want a tour of like everything underground and backstage at the museum, let me know.
Let's go.
So
right now.
Now I'll have to ask him again. So I took my mother for her birthday. And the amount of inventory they have there, because I think it's less than 10% of what they have there is on display.
Yeah.
And they were showing, they got a bunch of old vehicles from the park, like old snow machines and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll check my phone after because it's so cool.
There's incredible vehicle collections. Xanterra that runs, they're the concessionaire for the park. They used to be called Yellowstone Park Transportation Company, and they have a ton of old vehicles that are in various storage. Some of them are on display at the Museum of the Rockies. And then I know the Heritage and Research Center in Gardner has just tremendous collections. I really wish Gardner had a museum where we could see some of these things.
It'd be a great idea because, I mean, I guess you said it's not really a township to...
Yeah, it's
You
just
said it's not
unincorporated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even if there was a museum in the park, or I know the Yellowstone Gateway Museum in Livingston is, I don't know where they're at in the process now, but I know that they were looking at like they're redoing their museum. So maybe that'll be the space, but there's just so much cool stuff.
Yeah.
And the vehicles are quite world renowned. I randomly met a man from Nye who works on a lot of the parts and doing restoration. I got my car stuck and he pulled me out.
Nice.
That's how I met him. Very random, but super cool dude.
Yeah, they had some of the snow machines they had, snowmobiles, were like, they're crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, all of it, because it's so specialized, right? Traveling in the winter. Yeah. And apparently there's, according to my friend Paul, there's a whole bunch of old stagecoaches that they just buried. So like when the park changed from horse-powered vehicles to automobiles, they like made the switch. I think it was like 1916, and they just took all the stagecoaches and like buried them. Basically, they were like, we just got to dispose of these. So somewhere.
That's the way some of the ways we used to like deal with all of our waste and everything is just dig a hole and bury it.
Hopefully.
Yeah, maybe if you're lucky.
Total aside, but when I worked at McMurdo Station in Antarctica, the military had buried a whole bunch of like, they must have been really disgusting sausages because like for the military to not eat them, and you don't get like a lot of choice. You kind of have what you have down there because it takes a while to get things down there. But they had buried them and figured like, well, the ground's never going to thaw, so it's never going to be a problem. They're just there, and we don't have to deal with them. They're out of sight, out of mind. Well, with the crazy climate that we have, temperatures rising, the ground started to thaw, and we had a depression of rotten sausages at the base.
Hilarious.
So it's not always a good idea to just bury things.
You just reminded me because I was at the museum recently. My mother gifted myself and my girlfriend a membership there for a year. So we're there, and we're at one of the dinosaur exhibits, and there's all these eggs. And they literally look like sausages.
They do.
Which,
they're really long.
Which we never would have said, but like a 5-year-old kid comes running up next to us and just looks at him and goes, sausages, and runs away. It's like stuck in my head forever.
Kids are so profound sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're profane, sometimes they're profound. You just never know.
It was perfectly timed. If you should bug me or remind me about that, and I'll see if he could hook up another tour, because that was like different staff took us around and showed us different stuff, and they set it up for a couple hours. Wow. And I said to my mother, I'm like, I can't just go to the museum and check out the exhibits. It's kind of nothing.
You're kind of ruined.
Yeah.
It's like skiing at Bridger Bowl. Once you go there, everything else is just...
Yeah, the bars.
Yeah, it's too high. Ruins you.
But if you bug me about it, remind me and want to ruin your experience
Museum
of it.
Experiences.
Yeah. He could probably hook it up again. So
I would love that.
It's very cool.
Of course, I'd have to get here.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. I do not leave Gardner.
You said you travel. You said you have a travel issue.
I do. Yeah. So usually when I come to Bozeman, it's like, all right.
To go to the airport?
I'm going to Australia. So I'm going to come to Bozeman the night before. I have such a hard time leaving Gardner that I have to plan to come stay in Bozeman the night before my flight. Otherwise, I will be late and miss it. It's like, it's a problem that I have, but it's probably a good sign that I like where I live. Yeah,
there's some pretty good food options in Bozeman now, though. You should plan that out when you come here, because it's like, that's what I tell people too. And it's nothing against Big Sky, but Big Sky's similar to Gardner in some ways. It's just a very small local community.
Yeah,
like the local community in Big Sky, or in Bozeman, we have a very diverse selection of pretty good food.
Yeah, and pretty good beer.
Yeah,
the beer sanctuary.
Yeah,
they've got some stuff. I went and had pho recently. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. Vietnamese soup.
Okay.
We'll call it that because I'm going to mispronounce
Yeah.
the 3-letter word.
don't
It's
know.
a new place on like 7th and Durston.
Okay.
It was surprisingly good.
Oh, is that at the brewery or no?
There's a brewery in that building.
Okay.
Yes.
I wonder where. Yeah. Because there's a new brewery on 7th and Durston. It's called, I think, Last Best Place.
Yes, they're in the same building.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I
So
didn't
you
know
can
there was
have-
anything else in there.
Yeah, you can have Vietnamese soup and beer all in the same.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck parking though.
Yeah, that's a tricky spot.
It's a bit epic right now.
Yeah. Yes, just 7th and 19th with the wrong time of day in Bozeman is like just roads you want to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, I think as a non-resident, I get a very different perspective of Bozeman because I'm usually here trying to like accomplish multiple tasks in a finite amount of time, and 19th makes that really hard and really frustrating. So I try not to take that out on Bozeman, but it's just
No, and if you
it's a lot.
like, I grew up in such a tiny town. People that come here from cities are just say get real when you say traffic.
Yeah.
But if you're used to a town of 1,500 and one stoplight in town,
Yeah.
it can stress you out pretty fast.
Yeah. I that describes me.
Yeah, and I've adapted. I
Yeah.
know I'm just used to it because anything with enough time you get used to, but it's still,
Totally.
I still avoid 19th at all costs. But if it's like 4 a.m. and I'm driving around here, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty smooth sailing.
I'd love all the amenities of this city and this amount of traffic. They just
Yeah.
don't exist.
Yeah. I guess when you're used to navigating bison jams, though, 19th is different.
Is there many answers for a bison jam, though? You're really just...
All right. Everybody has a different theory.
Okay.
I will give you mine. Take it or leave it. I got, you get to decide how to think and feel. For the most part, if you move just slightly faster than walking pace, when there's a bison herd on the road, you can navigate through them. Be careful because bison have a hierarchy, right? So there's the lead cow and cow number 2, 3, 4 down the line. And then usually the young fellas are all in the back and they can get a bit rowdy. But that's usually how bison herd kind of moves around.
It's a cow or a bull that's leading the...
Cow. So
Okay.
they're a matriarchal society. The bulls are deadbeat dads. They come around in August. They pick a cow that looks ready to go. Looks like, actually, I shouldn't say look, smells, because it is all olfactory communication. Smells like she's going to be receptive to breeding soon. Fun fact, bison are only receptive to breeding. The females are only receptive for 30 minutes.
Oh, interesting. And they're only... Because they rut, like, so they're just the fall, right?
Just in August,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe late July you'll see a little bit, sometimes into September. But pretty much August is like bison party season. And the bulls, you probably, if you drive in the park at all, you probably see this. They start kind of coming out of the woodwork, and then they start rubbing their faces in the vegetation, peeing in the dust wallows before they roll in it. They kind of start doing these behaviors, and then they'll pick a cow, a female bison, that smells like she's close to being ready, and that bull will just stay with her and harass her until one of two things happens. Either she relents and breeds with him, or a bigger bull comes along and they fight and he loses access and he's got to go to the next one. But bison bulls are basically wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and on to the next cow. So they do...
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Noted.
and on to the next cow.
Memory updated.
Yes. And this is how it works. So the bulls don't do any parental care. So when you see male bison in a herd, usually they are young bulls. So think like adolescent and teenage boys. Yep. And sometimes when they're at the back of the herd and they're kind of jostling for position, or they're getting a little bit rowdy, or sometimes when you're in August, those bulls still get a dose of testosterone, and so they can be... Watch for them. If they make a sudden movement, just stop. All of that is a long way of saying move slowly, cautiously, and just kind of keep going. If you have a car in front of you, try to stay fairly close to its bumper so they don't move in between you.
Okay.
On rare occasion, I get bison who are just completely uninterested in moving. Like they are just standing in the road and they don't want to move. They do not like percussive noises. So if you roll down your window and clap your hand. Don't put your hands out of the car, but just in the car, clap your hands really loud. They will tend to feel a little bit like, what's that? Like, that's a weird sound. And it'll just get them milling a little bit. And once you can get them moving, you can usually move through. I try not to like drive really fast at them or panic them, especially in the winter, because bison are having to dig through deep snow to get to dry grass that has a nutritional content similar to cardboard. So they are on the world's lowest calorie diet. So I try really hard to be gentle with them and not panic them at all. In the summer, they have a little bit more nutrition to deal with, but they're really on a knife edge in the winter.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing about white-tailed and like the percentage of body fat they lose in the winter.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It is insane. They're so resilient. And the poor females, again, like they hooked up with that dude back in August. They're pregnant.
Hooked up with that dude.
They still have their calf that they're nursing. Like life is really hard for bison cows.
It's so interesting because I grew up on a dairy farm.
Yeah.
So like the heat cycle of a dairy cow is, every 21 days.
Whoa.
So it's so interesting that because they're very similar to elk and whitetail.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how that evolved, that the dairy cow, you breed them year round.
Yeah. Whereas bison.
Same thing with beef cattle.
Yeah.
So I never thought about that, but I've experienced the bulls when they're rutting, when they're rutting, and you kind of hear them grunting and growling a little bit,
and they do a lot of. My voice is not deep enough, but that like bellowing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that. But I was thinking you were saying how to navigate all the cars that stop for bison traffic jam. I'm like, please tell me how you navigate that.
I have no answer for that, but if we're on a dotted line, I do often pass.
Yeah.
Because you get people who just...
everyone, like, why not just stop in the middle of the road and get out of my vehicle and start taking photos? Like, there's just no...
Yeah. Use a pullout, please, if you can. If you can't, just remember... It's kind of rude, but I'm always like, remember, somebody behind you has to poop.
Mm-hmm. I hear about this Instagram page, but I guess I haven't, maybe I've looked at it briefly, but I'm not, the only time I'm on social media is on my desktop. Mm-hmm. I don't even do it on my phone.
You are a wise person.
Yeah, it's just for my like sanity and mental health. But there's a page that I've heard referenced called Taurons of Yellowstone.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you're familiar, but I'm sure you see everything and anything on there.
Oh, man. So many things. So many humans humaning in so many different ways. It's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when you get that many people just in one place congregated, you just get to see the best and worst of humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people you're like, what? How and why? Mostly, I just try to avoid seeing anyone's insides on their outsides. Like when I see somebody doing something really stupid, I'm like, okay, time to leave. Let's go. And I just really hope that my guests are not interested in that. I haven't had a lot of people on my tours that have tried to do things that were really cavalier. There was one guy who like walked right up to a bighorn sheep, and I was having visions of it like headbutting him and shattering his pelvis, and I was just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways you can hurt yourself in the park, and it's a long way from medical care. So.
Yeah, that was my fortune and yours too. If you grew up around animals, is you have a different respect for them when you see just their power.
Yeah.
And just you got to treat them as what they are. They're animals. They're not people, and you're coming into their world, and that's something you got to respect.
They have their own agendas, and you don't know what kind of day they are having, because a lot of times a lot of animals are pretty chill, and then you meet somebody who's having a bad day, and it's different.
I'm like that with everything though. Like I have so much respect for the river. When you see it move trees like that, mm-hmm. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the wind, like everything, it's like, you know what? And just a snowstorm, like what a snowstorm does to the roads. And it's, you realize that
weather is our most effective predator.
Yeah.
For sure. It's bears, mountain lions, wolves, they got nothing on weather.
Yeah.
It'll change your plans.
Yeah, no, we were talking with a gentleman a while ago that did the podcast, and he was talking about, he grew up in California on the coast, and he was talking about surfing a lot. And we were kind of debating sharks or bears. And he said he thinks he'd rather, what did he say? He was more nervous about a bear than a shark. And I think I'm getting that right. But I think he said like a shark, I think it'd just be like over pretty quick with a shark if you had a bad interaction. He's like, a bear, I don't know. And like, he's not, depending on the situation, he could be right. Yeah,
I guess like, I don't know if we're comparing lethality or if we're comparing like, which one would I stand a better chance of like negotiating an escape with? There's not a lot of negotiation with sharks.
Yeah.
They kind of taste and then you're dead.
I think that's what he was getting at.
Yeah. But I randomly have met a shark attack survivor. Okay. While I was skiing. It's the only time I've asked a stranger to show me their rear end. Mm-hmm. But he had like a big chunk of his quad muscle bitten by a shark while he was surfing in outside of Sydney. And it was interesting because I asked him if he like hated sharks as a result, and he was like, no, I just was acting a lot like their food. So it was like this guy almost bled to death from being bitten by a shark, and he just had a very interesting perspective about it, which surprised me because I don't know if I would have reacted the same way or not. But
yeah, I know there's a gentleman that survived a bear attack up in Big Sky a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what his perspective is, and I think I'm pretty sure he's a local up there, so I don't know what he's like.
Yeah, I really would love to avoid being attacked by a bear.
Yeah, I think we all would.
Yeah, that would be an interesting podcast episode talking to him.
Yeah, that's a thought.
There are not a lot of opportunities for us to experience being seen as prey in modern life, and I don't know exactly how I would manage my mind in that situation, but you probably do the best you can.
Yeah. I mean, when you're saying you don't have to be a good shot with the bear spray, just to keep your composure, if you're in a situation where you need to be a good shot under that amount of stress, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something you can really train for. You can try to simulate it to some extent, but
yeah, I definitely think training helps. And I
definitely helps a lot more than not training.
Yeah, it's something, and something's usually better than nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard some pretty like failed stories on bear spray. I'm probably not telling this with all the details, but several years ago, 2 Park Service employees were hiking and a bear came running at them, and they both sprayed the bear. Well, the bear was running at them because it was running away from a different bear. And so that bear made contact with them, knocked them both over. I believe it bit one of them. But there was still enough residual bear spray in the air that the second bear was kind of coughing and huffing and eventually left the scene. And so the bear spray was effective, even though it was, really not even aimed at the second bear.
Yeah.
And I've had it in my eyes, and I'll tell you, it'd make you pretty compliant. Mm-hmm. So
I've heard so many mixed stories and takes on it, and I think everything's circumstantial too.
There's a lot of circumstances. I think in every bear human encounter, it's important to approach it with curiosity rather than judgment, because there's just so many variables, and also how can you possibly know exactly what you would do if you were in that person's situation? Yeah. So yeah, just there's a lot of armchair slinging that goes on every time we have a bear incident, and it makes me sad.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably just so much stuff that you don't have all the context for the situation from the bear's perspective and the person's.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't be surprised, but the amount of people that'll go out like around here and won't have any bear spray and will do stuff, be like, oh, so-and-so told me it's fine, like it's close to town and this and that. I'm like, look, it's not like really costing you anything to have the bear spray. So just take it.
Yeah, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. It's like why you wear a seatbelt, right? Like none of us are planning to get in a car accident, but they happen.
Yeah.
I've been in car accidents.
Mm-hmm.
I never planned to get in any of them. So.
Yeah, I rolled a vehicle when I was in my teenage years, and I had my seatbelt on, and it definitely saved my life because you'd never know where I could have gone if I didn't have a seatbelt on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I still try to remember to wear one now.
Yes. Yeah. Please do that.
Yeah.
My mom did something really strange. I don't even know if I should admit this. I'm old enough. Statute of limitations, etc. So she let me have a job and buy a car before I turned 16. So I wasn't old enough to have a driver's license yet. And she was like, I'm going to teach you how to drive, and you better not get caught. Because if you do, I'm going to tell the police that I know nothing about why you even have a car and why you're driving. Mm-hmm. So I always wore my seatbelt. And because that's where I started, it helped me, like, not forget. It's just like, it feels uncomfortable to not have it on. So I think that was weirdly, I'm not advocating that anyone parent that way, but
it was a different time though, because like I learned to drive well before I was of legal age to drive.
Right. I was also driving a Volvo that had formerly been a farm vehicle. So it was a fairly safe and innocuous situation. Anyways, I'm going to dramatically change subjects. Have you heard of Wild Livelihoods Business Coalition?
No.
It is a thing that we started a few years ago in Park County. So it's mainly businesses that rely on Yellowstone for their operations in some way, directly or indirectly.
Did you send me a link to this or no?
I think I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, so it's, as we all rely on the resources that the park gives us, clean water, an amazing river, beautiful landscapes, wildlife, fish, all the things that bring people here. We're trying to also remember to kind of give back and protect where protection is needed, improve where improvements are possible. We're not a nonprofit. We're just a bunch of businesses that work together. Mm-hmm. And it's been really incredible to see the work that has come out of it. Business owners are inherently busy people, so we're all like ashamed of everything that we don't do.
Yeah.
But working together makes it a little bit easier. Different people keep track of different things, and sort of we let each other know when, like, oh, this is happening, or that's going on, or did you know about this? And it's also a great way for us to back some of the projects that are going on. Like one of my favorite projects, which may pertain to you, you've probably heard of Safe Passages, which is a nonprofit seeking to gather funding to help get road overpasses for wildlife crossings, to reduce roadkill, basically. And so obviously there's an economic component to that. Having a car wrecked is like really expensive. You can get hurt. There's all the reasons why that's not great. And so kind of just putting a small business backing to that effort is somewhat helpful. So we have lots of projects.
How many businesses are involved with it?
We're about 250 now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then really diverse.
It's like Montana, Wyoming. Is it
mostly Montana.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Mostly Park County, but mainly just because we like don't get out this way that often.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a similar effort going on in the sort of Bozeman, Big Sky area, but if there is, we should talk. And if there isn't, like, we should still talk. So
yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm going to look for more businesses too off of there that I can have come plug their business on here and plug that and just say what they're doing so more people can hear about it.
Yeah, it's it's really special. I super enjoy it, and it's amazing what happens when you have a bunch of entrepreneurs from a lot of different backgrounds come together, a lot of different experience.
Then that's a lot. That's 250 is a lot of businesses.
It's a lot of businesses. Yeah. We have a steering committee, so there's usually 10 or 12 of us that meet every month and sort of talk about what's going on. And then if there's something that we think everybody should know about or act on, or an opportunity that people should be aware of, then we send something out. But we try not to like bombard our membership with information, because everybody's busy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's like,
That's cool.
we're only going to tell you if something's super important. Otherwise, like, carry on. So that's been, I guess we started that in 2022. And so we're a few years into it.
Yeah, and you got a lot of members. That's awesome.
A lot of members.
Yeah.
We're about to have a film premiere on March. Probably gonna be after your putting
Release
this out.
date? Okay.
But in Livingston on March, I believe it's March 23rd. I don't have
Okay.
my phone on me. I'll revise the date. In March, we're having a film premiere about wild livelihoods, and then a panel discussion to kind of be like, okay, business owners, like, where do we want to go from here? How do we want to support the amazing system, the amazing natural world that supports our businesses? So yeah, really interesting times with that. And we're going to be premiering the film. It's a short film. It's only like 15 minutes. It is incredibly beautiful, done by a guy called Kyle Dudgeon. And it's a lot of beautiful landscape, interviews with some local business owners that are really cool people. It'll be showing in Gardner, and I'm thinking we're going to try and get to Cook City with it in May.
Oh, cool.
So
the premiere is it's open to the public?
Yep.
The Livingston one?
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely open to the public. And we're hoping to stimulate some good conversations and just get people interacting with each other, which is like very much along the lines with exactly what you're doing.
Cool.
So-
Yeah. If you don't mind, send me the date to that, and I'll I'd love to check it out and bring some people to check it out.
It would be outstanding.
Cool. Yeah. Do you want to wrap this up there?
Yeah. Let's
Perfect.
do that.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.